Hey everyone, Greg Plotkin from American Farmland Trust here again today talking farming in a pandemic. We've got a very special guest, Tim Biello from Featherbed Lane Farm in Ballston Spa, New York, which is just a little southwest of Saratoga Springs. And Tim is also a colleague of mine at American Farmland Trust. He is the coordinator of our Hudson Valley Farmlink network. Thanks for being with us, Tim.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So I was hoping you could just start and tell us a little bit about the farm, what you grow there, how you sell your products, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. So Featherbed Lane Farm is in Ballston Spa, as you mentioned. We're about 20 minutes outside of Saratoga Springs. It's a little over 60 acres. Maybe half of that, a little under half of that is fields. Then we have some forests and ponds, wetlands on the property, things like that. We operate a full year community supported agriculture project. So we have CSA members that come out to the farm every Saturday all year long. So every Saturday for 52 weeks. And we do fresh and storage crops. We do a little bit, we're kind of experimenting and getting into some unheated season extension, but primarily it's the fresh and the storage crops for the full year. We are a bit unique in that our primary power source is draft horses. So farm using a team of draft horses that we work our fields with. We have about 5.5 acres in production right now for our 85-ish full year CSA member CSA. And probably we'll look to expand some of that acreage in the future. But the CSA is 90-something% of our business. So we're primarily a CSA farm. We do some additional sales to restaurants or some other local grocery stores and things like that. But yeah, primarily really direct to our members.
Yeah, you're direct to consumer, it sounds like pretty much 100%.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk, because one, you're located in New York, so you're close to the epicenter of kind of the coronavirus outbreak.
Yes.
So I want to hear, as a farmer there, what it's been like over the last 2 months. So, starting in March, being like, hey, things are closing down, life's going to change a lot, to today, where it seems like we have a little better sense of what life is going to be like in the next few months.
Yeah, it definitely had an arc to it where, at first it wasn't quite clear what was going on, how severe it was going to be, what was happening. I would say a couple of the impacts, at least in terms of from my personal experience on the farm here, for myself or our CSA manager and our seasonal farmer who just started kind of in the middle of it, actually, is that it increased the workload initially in a very it made it feel like May in late February or March in terms of the amount of work. And so right now feels a little bit extra bonkers, just to do all the new logistics, make sure employees were safe, make sure, me and my family who live on the farm that we were safe, to make sure that our CSA members and everybody coming out of the farm or whoever we were providing produce to, the emails back and forth with restaurants who were going through, even though they're not a big part of our market, that we're friends with a lot of the restaurant owners, right. and hearing what they were going through and having to lay off staff and shut down or try delivery, but was it really covering cost? It was coming through in a bunch of different ways. The biggest thing for us was really just figuring out how we keep all of us safe and our CSA members as well. And so our CSA members come to our farm every week, and our model is a free choice model. So they walk through our farm store and get their food, whatever they want for the week, and however much they want for however many people in their household have a share. So it's set up to be really community oriented. We often have coffee and recipes and samples, and people are hanging out and interacting. So we had to really restructure that. And I think in the end, it's worked out really pretty well. People have gotten used to it. It took a little while for people to settle into a new routine. One person or one family moving through the farm store at a time, masks on when you're going to be close, in proximity or moving through the farm store, using gloves or something to handle produce to, try to minimize. There's no evidence that it transmits through food, but being precautious. And I think it took a little while for everybody to get comfortable with that new normal. But actually, I think what we've seen is that people, as they've settled into it, they hang out in the parking area, they walk the farm, keeping a safe distance and everything. But I think it's actually, we are always a really community-focused CSA model with the on-farm pickup and all the other things that we do that are part of the CSA. This has actually, I think, really reinforced the importance of that for our members, because this is a space where they can be outside, get fresh air, walk around, see familiar faces in a safe way while they're getting a necessity, their food. So it's actually a lot of what's been built into our sort of CSA model has been lifted up as being really important. Another Another thing like that would be that we offer a sliding scale and a variety of payment plan options for people. And that was obviously really important because initially people were really unsure what was happening with their jobs. A lot of people lost their jobs and it wasn't clear what they could do. But, we reached out and said, you still need your food. Come and get your food. We'll figure out the details. And I think that's always something we do with members. And I think it came through in a pretty important way for a while there.
Well, and that just shows you how important it is to have a relationship with a local farmer, because you're not going to see a lot of grocery stores be like, oh, come in, take whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, we'll figure out payment later. Like you care about your members, you care about the community and the people that you serve, which I think is really nice. So, I mean, I've heard stories from around the country that CSAs are kind of having a moment. People are really excited about them. They want to connect with people that are growing food in their community. What has been your experience? Have you had more demand than ever, or what's it been like?
So initially we didn't, and I was hearing that in the Hudson Valley. We were hearing a lot about folks more south in the Hudson Valley getting a ton of interest, being either sold out or at least having people say, stated interest. Whether or not money was exchanged, I don't know. I would say it wasn't until maybe a month ago that we did see that surge in interest. And so we did cap our membership for the first time this is our 4th year of the full year CSA sales. And I think it was in large part driven by, people having less access to food in other places, and also being like, hey, we really want local safe food. And so I think there was some other confluence of events, like we've been here long enough. We've started to, be more known because we're here longer. People tell their friends, kind of thing. But I think the way in which it happened so fast, with so many people reaching out, I'd have days where 5 to 10 people sent me emails through our website and reached out saying, hey, we're interested in a CSA share. Are they still available? And that kind of frequency of contact was certainly new.
Yeah, well, and I've been talking to a lot of people about silver linings. What good things are going to come out of this pandemic? And I think one of them that's clear to me is that people really have more of an appreciation for farmers and locally grown food and being able to access that in their communities. So, I mean, I'm really hopeful that when all of this is behind us and we can look back, you'll have new customers, you'll have a bigger community, you'll have more people that are interested in what you're doing. And so even if things are difficult, will continue to be difficult for the summer, I think maybe in the end, there's going to be some positive things that come out of all of this.
Yeah, you have to hope that we'll learn some things about what we want and what's really important to us. Hopefully this will be something, because we've heard for a really long time, like CSAs in our area, it's saturated. There's lots of CSAs, but the reality is a very small fraction of people know what a CSA even is. I think the market is definitely there. I think this has lifted a lot more people in the direction of wanting to seek it. This certainly also highlights the disparity between people who have the ability to seek it and access it and those who do not. And so I think that's another issue that I think that one's not getting it is getting a lot of attention. There are programs. New York has a program that the governor put in place. I think it's called Nourish New York, to try and collect surplus food, get it to people who have need. There's a lot of other programs like that happening. A lot of organizations are doing programs. I know food pantries are super busy right now. But those are measures that are really important, but that's not a system in place that really equitably serves everybody. So we still need to be working in that direction, and hopefully it gets more attention.
I mean, CSA shares are expensive for the average person. I mean, and it's not that there's not a lot of value in it. It's an upfront cost. I mean, that's why farmers do CSA shares. It's a cash flow issue. You bring in money in the beginning of the season. And so I think we do have to recognize that putting $300, $400, $500, $600 upfront isn't a possibility for everyone. And so whether, in the future, it's maybe a work share, maybe you donate, a few hours working on the farm, maybe you do X, Y, and Z. It's nice to hear that you're thinking about that kind of stuff too.
Well, we have always had a sliding scale in place. We talk to anybody who's interested. That doesn't mean they have access still. They still have to come to the farm to get food. So that doesn't solve that issue. We do what we call the Franklin Community Center Family Share. Franklin Community Center is a food bank, and they offer other programming in Saratoga region. And we raise money from our CSA members to allow us to get paid for our work, because we're not in a philanthropic position as a business, as a farm. But we raise money for our members to then donate the food to the food pantry. And we've been doing that now for a year, and we've continued, so preceding this situation, and that we'll continue to do that. It's certainly really important to us, but we're also a new business and we have to get income to be able to, survive and grow and get into a viable position. So I would push back just a little bit on the CSA shares are expensive. I think they can be expensive. It's often the structure of the payment, but in terms of, I think if most people priced out their basket of goods throughout a whole year of all their vegetables, particularly getting anything comparable to a CSA, but even if you're going somewhere where the produce is of different quality, I think you would find that they're actually priced out unfavorably for CSA farmers.
Oh yeah, I mean the value that the consumer gets from a share throughout the season is, I mean, it's amazing. It really is.
That doesn't mean it still can't price people out. I'm just, but I don't think.
No, but you're right. You're absolutely right, and that's the same thing. It's like buying a half pig or a quarter beef. All of this stuff can be really expensive with a lot of cash out front. But when you look at the price per pound of all of this stuff, you're really getting a good deal.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to shift a little bit. I want to talk about so you're a farmer, obviously, and that's a full-time job in and of itself. But you also work for American Farmland Trust as the coordinator of our Hudson Valley Farmland network, which basically connects people that want to farm with landowners that have land and are looking for someone to farm it. So I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about the network, the connections that you've made, and then just what you're hearing from farmers right now.
Yeah, so I both get to work really closely with all the partner organizations in the Hudson Valley Farmlink network, and also with what we call regional navigators, but the organizations we connect with throughout the newer statewide program called Farmland for New Generation New York. And so in both of those programs, and they're modeled somewhat similarly, so you have a couple of different platforms that we interact with farmers or farmland owners. So we have websites, the Hudson Valley Farmland Finder or the New York Farmland Finder. We do events, so say workshops on how to develop a good farm lease, networking opportunities for farmers and landowners. Those have obviously been dramatically impacted and shifted a bit. And then we also offer one-on-one technical assistance. So I have a lot of times where I get calls from farmers wherever they may be in New York with questions about how to evaluate a potential property, how to think about getting into a good arrangement on a farm, should they purchase, should they lease, business questions, older farmers may be looking for younger farmers to connect with, whatever the situation might be, and a lot about farmland conservation as well. That work really continues in a lot of ways full bore. People are still trying to figure out what to do on their farms, still seeking to start businesses or continue the businesses or transfer the businesses. A lot of farms that were already in stress are going to be a lot more stressed. And so farmland protection and helping people transfer access land is probably more important than ever. At the same time, obviously, people are also juggling all these new logistics. So we're still handling all the same kind of general workload of chatting with farmers, farmland owners, trying to help them evaluate opportunities and make good decisions and connect with resources. Things like the American Farmland Trust Farmer Relief Fund, or grants that are coming through groups like National Young Farmers Coalition, or federal programs that farmers are like completely confused by, and everyone is pretty confused by, not just farmers. I mean, and so figuring out how to make sure people are not just getting overwhelmed by resources, but are also getting guidance on how to use them efficiently when they're also starting their season, hiring people, doing all these new logistics. And maybe for farmers who are in that land search or land transition mode, they're doing all that at the same time now. And so I think it's probably more important than ever to have essentially what is a really statewide network of support for farmers and farmland owners to get help.
Yeah. And so I want to ask you this question. So I've been hearing a lot that the coronavirus pandemic is making people rethink where they want to live. It's making people consider if they want to be in a city like New York. And to me, that means in some ways that the Hudson Valley is really the low-hanging fruit for people that want to move out of the city. They want to have more space. Maybe they just want to have a second home or a country home. How do you think that's going to impact your work with the Hudson Valley Farmland going forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've heard some of that too anecdotally. I don't have numbers on it, but definitely heard a lot from landowners who maybe already had homes in those areas and are now maybe more permanently relocating, or who are looking, and that creates challenges and opportunities. The challenge is that will continue to escalate the land price further out of reach of a farmer, even many established farmers, but also certainly new farmers. I think it will also increase the importance of having good relationships and networking opportunities and resources to help them connect to help landowners better understand the realities of having a farm and preparing and planning to make a good arrangement, and help farmers better understand how to create secure arrangements that fit their life, that fit their farm business plans, that fit the whole thing. So I think it will make the importance of this work just, continue to raise it up. And the opportunity is that in a lot of cases, a really good lease can be a really solid start, or can be a solid expansion tool, or can be a gateway to something else. And it's about having the right connections, the right resources to make those arrangements work out. I don't want to be Pollyanna about it. There's also a lot of ways that it will stress the system for those farmers, but it is an opportunity given, I think, the right tools brought to bear.
Well, and I think the thing that people, I think, don't realize is that for a lot of farmers and landowners, they don't have traditional retirement funds. They don't have a 401k. They don't have all this money set aside. Their land is what they count on to retire. And so when someone comes to you and says, I want to buy this and put a home on it, and I'll give you a premium price of what you can get for agricultural land, for a lot of farmers, it's not that they want to sell their land to development. It's that they have very little choice. So I think it's important that there's programs in New York that actually help that compensate farmers for protecting their land and keeping it in agriculture for future generations.
Yeah, that's a big part. I mean, the network, the Hudson Valley Farmlink Network and Farmland for New Generation New York Network, are made up of organizations. So American Farmland Trust coordinated and included in those organizations. We work with a lot of land trusts who farmland protection is core to their organization, and they've also taken on this additional work of really helping farmers and farmland owners to protect those specific lands and encourage them to be able to stay in the hands of farmers. But there's also cooperative extension offices and really amazing agricultural service provider groups, Grow NYC, Glenwood, all these other great organizations that we work with from around the state. And I think the farmland protection piece of that is really essential, because especially in areas where you have that really high development pressure, that can be a really important transition or access tool to facilitate. I mean, the other thing is really trying to get connected to a lot of these farmers to help them start planning sooner. Because in some cases, farmland protection isn't the right tool, or it's going to take too long. Or so what are the other organizations that need to be there? What are the other steps that farmers could be taking sooner to take care of themselves? Like, we need to support them in transition out. It's not about moving them out and getting this new group in. It's about respecting the really hard work and the other things they've done for their whole lives, and also the legacy of that farm and keeping it in place long term.
And I mean, there's already been development pressure in the Hudson Valley for a long time. And to me, with everything that's going on, your work, the work of American Farmland Trust, the work of all your partners in the region is just going to become so much more important, I think, going forward.
Yeah, well, we're really fortunate to have it. It is really an amazing group of organizations that we get to partner with that are making some really great things happen over the last some years. The Farmland for New Generation New York program has been in place for now just a little over a year, into our second year, and have had almost 40 matches there, over somewhere around 175 matches in the Hudson Valley Farmlink Network program in the last 5 to 6 years. And those are really important numbers that people really like and want to focus on, because that's in one way what you're trying to create with this system to help people connect. But there's so much more that goes into it, all the one-on-one work, all the events that help people get educated, network with each other, find the resources they need, also find peer support, and all the other things that happen. And I got to say, I mean, this has come out of my work generally, but it's happened a bunch more recently with everything going on with the coronavirus pandemic. Is one of the harder to quantify but really important things about being a really hands-on farm linking service is that we're talking to people. There's always a person behind the system, and that's readily available at every organization throughout New York for farmers and landowners. Is people are often just like, man, it's just really nice to talk to somebody. It's really nice to know somebody's here to help. I didn't realize all these resources were there to work on this project with me. And I think the emotional or psychological benefit, while it's not the kind of thing that often brings home a grant, it's actually incredibly important and often undervalued.
Especially now, people can't go to their local grange, or they can't go to the places that they've traditionally gone to talk to other farmers that are experiencing the same challenges. And so having that outlet for people, especially during a pandemic when we're feeling more isolated, seems like it's really important.
Yeah.
We're getting to the end. I always
All
like to end these conversations with giving you the floor and letting you tell the public anything you want them to know about either being a farmer in New York right now, about, you know, working on these land transition issues for American Farmland Trust, and anything you want to share.
All right. No pressure. I guess one thing that's been kind of coming home to me during this whole thing is that in really short order, we've made some really drastic changes in this country. Some have been a forced hand in some ways. Some have been very voluntary. Some have been, but all across the board. But people have done something that probably felt a little unthinkable not too long ago. And I hope that one of the things we might take home from this is that we have pretty incredible capacity to do things differently and to prioritize the things that are really important to us. And I hope that we think and carry this forward. I think there's a human tendency once a stressor is removed to return to whatever was. Habits are very hard to break. But I also think this is an eye-opener and an opportunity for us to kind of reprioritize and think about things like sustainable food systems, equality. How do we want to tackle climate change? These really big issues that are really important. And I think they're different than coronavirus because they're not as targeted, but they're big issues that are important. And I think we should take home the understanding that we can make big changes. We can look beyond what is and maybe create something new and better.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunities going forward for local food systems and farmers, you know, it's been a really hard couple months for a lot of people. And if you take solace in anything, I think it has to be that. Yeah. That, you know, like you're a farmer. I farmed for a long time. We've always tried to make the case to people of how important local food is, healthy food, equitable food. And it's a conversation that's oftentimes falls on deaf ears when your supermarkets are full, you know, when you can go anywhere and get food. But now I think people are listening and paying attention, and that's something that is hopefully going to be really powerful.
Yeah, to that local food point, I mean, as more and more people are opening their eyes to it and really wanting to access it, you realize if we want local food, we have to have local farms, we have to have local farmers.
Yep, because farming is hard. It is not something that everyone can or should do. You know, like farming is a very professional job, even if you're out in the field with bare feet and dirty hands, you know, it is not something that you can go out, pick up tomorrow, put a bunch of seeds in the ground and say, I'm a farmer, you know? So, and, you know, we have to respect farmers like any other business owners who have to make a living. So I'm really excited.
Agreed.
Well, thanks, Tim. Appreciate you joining us today, and we will talk to you soon.
Nice to be here. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye.